Welcome to Start Lines and Swag Bags. The airing of this podcast is for entertainment purposes only and is not intended to replace advice from professional medical or training staff. Thank you for listening and your support of the Flying Pig Project.
So, welcome back to Start Lines and Swag Bags. Tonight, my guest is John. John, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Rachel. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here. LFG.
So, can you, in a politically correct way, explain to our listeners what LFG stands for?
It stands for Llamas Frolic Gently. I think it's an acronym that is used to express exuberance and excitement for wanting to run as hard as you can.
Llamas. I love that. All right. First and foremost, John, share a little bit about yourself. Who are you? Why am I talking to you today?
Yeah, I'm John McCarthy. I've been a runner myself for over 15, 20 years now. I've lost count. Ran cross country in college. I am a level 1 USATF Certified Cross Country Coach and distance track for men and women. I coached at the collegiate level for a couple of years before going to grad school and doing something unrelated to running, though running in my spare time all the while. I've continued to have a pretty rigorous running routine for myself, even while balancing a career as a UX consultant and a creative writer. And then in 2022, I discovered the Swifters, the Skokie Swifters. Shout out to the Skokie Swifters. Mm-hmm. Because of a Strava challenge, and I started running with them, and from there, Sabrina Emke and I started SSSY coaching, and now we each coach about 10 different athletes through the club from every distance, from the 5K to the half marathon. I've already had a lot of success with some of my runners, so shout out to them.
You sure have. Okay, now, but here's the thing, because I remember very specifically why you know me. Yeah, okay, you know me from the Swifters. But I can make the statement that it is because of me you became a Swifter.
I believe so. And let me see if I get the story right. But I believe that I know you because of a particularly creepy carousel. And that's how I found. I was doom scrolling Strava one day, and I came across. That's how I found the club, and I clicked into the club, and there was a challenge, a segment challenge called the Creepy Carousel, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna go troll them on this club on Strava right now. And I remember I put on my running shoes, I went out. It was only like 2.5 miles from my house, and so I went over there and I stole the crown from Max. And then I think ran around it like 10 times, and then was like, okay. And then I got home and I made the Strava post, and I was like, okay, Skokie Swifters, your turn again. And then I remember I told this story at like a storytelling event too. But then just for everyone listening, this particular event triggered quite the war of the creepy carousel, and Max and I, for like the whole summer, we're going back and forth, at least for the month of July, we're going back and forth, and we ran a collective like 100 miles on this. I remember I ran like 9 miles around a 0.3 mile segment, and then I was like, Max is never going to catch up to this, and then he goes out and runs like a half marathon around this 0.3 mile segment. If you're wondering who won, I think we both lost because nothing.
100%. But do you know how the creepy carousel segment came to be?
I know that somebody knows the house that the carousel belongs to. Is that a relation to you, or was that someone else in the club?
No. So what happened is first of all, rest in peace, Strava Mafia, because the Strava Mafia was a group. I knew the person who did Strava Mafia, and he did segments out in my area, and I convinced him to throw one down in Skokie with the pirate ship.
That's right.
The pirate ship was an official Strava Mafia segment, and then after that, it was either Ryan or me or Sabrina. We're like, we got to do this again. So we didn't do it as part of Strava Mafia, but we did the second segment, which was the creepy carousel. And I think that it's on somebody's aunt's property.
That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm really glad that you remember, I always call myself the matchmaker between you specifically and the Swifters. Because
you are. And I remember you telling me about Strava Mafia specifically. And I remember I read their ethos, which they're like mission statement or whatever he had written on the website. And it was just like, I love taking people's crowns so they get the email. Oh no, I took your crown. And, I feel like I resonate with that mission statement on a very deep level. I just really love the idea of going out and like stealing someone's crown just so that they're at work and they get an email that's like, oh no, your crown's gone.
No, okay. Yes, but I'm going to tell you this. As someone who is not, so, we talk about crowns, and a lot of times if you get the crown, it's because you are a pretty fast, either one of two things or one of three. You either are a very fast person, you're running a segment that not a lot of people run, or you do like I do and you just create your own. Okay, because, I do that. Then somebody finds it and takes it. But there was a particular Strava Mafia challenge that I actually held the crown. I had it for like 8 hours. And then I got the dreaded email. And the person who took it from me was the head of the Strava Mafia's wife. And I was like, if that's not mafia, like pure mafia, I don't know what is.
That's organized Strava crime.
100%. Now, the start lines and swag bags, and I'm going to give you a shortened version because everybody who listens to the podcast is going to hear the same story, and I'm not going to do that. But I lost my big racing list and I went to put everything together. And I'm like, I have all these stories and look at this wonderful piece of swag I found and look at this absolute piece of crap. So the question I do present now is best or worst. You can do one, either or both. Props. I love props. So be my guest. Best or worst?
All right. Aside from my yellow Skokie Swifters bag that Rachel Joy has designed, I think my favorite swag, for a race corresponds with also my favorite race. So we can talk about that in a little bit. But it's all the swag. It's actually a collection of finishers medals that come from the Lincoln Presidential Half Marathon down in Springfield, Illinois. I'm from Springfield. I grew up in Springfield. It's a very challenging course. It's pretty hilly, but it takes you past all the Abraham Lincoln sites. So it takes you past his home where he lived. It takes you through downtown Springfield. It takes you past his tomb, and it takes you past the museum. So it's just kind of, and it's a cool course. It's a great atmosphere. It takes you through 2 parks. It's just kind of a nice scenic route. So I love the race. We can talk more about that. But the swag I ran it like 10 times. So for the first couple of years, I have all the finisher's medal was a penny. It was just like just a little penny. And so I have this one penny. I'm putting the pennies on, mind you. And so for the next 5 years, I got a collection of all these pennies. They were the same.
Oh my goodness.
So I like to put them all on like this, because then you're just like blinged out in pennies that jingle and jangle. But then they switched it up. And I can't say that I was, no disrespect or anything, but I really would like to have just like 10 pennies all the same size. But
yeah.
For the 50th anniversary, they did a $5 bill because Lincoln, is on the $5 bill. So
that is a cool medal.
Pennies have a $5 bill with them. And then for the 55th anniversary, they went like full meta, and they did a $5 bill with 5 pennies embedded in it.
Oh my God.
So there's that. So now my $5 bill has another $5 bill with 5 pennies and 5 other pennies that are medals. And then they really switched it up in a way that I wasn't like, I'm actually like, the medal is Lincoln's hat with a beard you can jiggle. So it's not, so it like broke theme, which I'm a man of consistency, Rachel, and the fact that they broke theme kind of like it ruffled my feathers a little bit. I don't like that it's not consistent, but it's still a cool medal, and you can jiggle Lincoln's beard if you'd like.
For those of you who are listening, there will also be pictures of all of these medals and John wearing all of these medals in the show notes. And what you can't see is while I'm talking, he's jiggling Lincoln's beard. That's what he's doing.
I am absolutely jiggling Lincoln's beard. It is fun. For breaking consistency, at least they made the breaking of the consistency fun. But for the creme de la creme, on the 60th anniversary of this race, they brought it back to the penny, but not just any penny. They made it a giant hulking size penny. It's like as big as my head. It's gigantic.
Hold that up against the first one.
It's like Flavor Flav's clock. And it's just like, it's a gargantuan penny.
Oh my God. Okay. Yeah. If you're listening, Lincoln, the like 2.5 inches, and the one you're putting on now has got to be like 6 inches.
It's like a small personal pan pizza.
That's an excellent reference.
So here's all the pennies. You can hear them jingle.
Oh my God. Wait, I'm sorry. Back up one thing. This was a half marathon or a full marathon?
Half marathon.
I have to put that on my list.
You do. It's a great course.
Those are awesome.
Yeah. So I think, hold on, they're about to fall off. They make a lot of noise. But I think in terms of swag, that like hands down, I think like that collection of finishers medals is probably my favorite. It's just kind of a personal favorite of swag material.
Those are awesome. I mean, yeah, we do it for the fun of running, really. But to hand me that tangible, gorgeous creation is phenomenal.
Yeah, they're fun to wear. That's for sure.
And heavy too.
They're heavy, and I've put them all on and wore them all on at once multiple times.
Dang right. Okay. Do you? I mean, that was good. Do you have a worst piece, or we're just going for best?
A worst piece. Yeah, I do have. I do maybe edit this out or not. I don't know. And it's kind of bratty. I have a worst piece, but it's kind of bratty.
Go ahead.
There was this is pretty bratty. There was a race that there was a race back in 2017 that I won, and I had seen the awards table before the race started, and I was like, oh, that looks really nice. There was like this awesome trophy there, and I was just like, that's cool. And like the medals are displayed. I was like, oh, that's all like cool and whatever. And so the race happens and I end up winning the race. Okay. So I was like, yes, the trophy, it's mine, but we go up there and the trophy was like definitely for like the youngest participant of the race. And then the medals went to the age group awards, and the winner of the race was just a holographic pumpkin medal. So like the award for the winner of the race was was the worst piece of swag that was on the table. So I was like, I wish I would have lost and lied about my age. Like this was. So I know that sounds completely like kind of noxious and bratty to say.
No, I would want the trophy. I think that's absolutely. So let's switch gears. We're going to talk about advice. Now, you can do best and you can do worst and you can do either or both. Which one would you like to do?
I'll do best.
Okay.
I'll talk about the best advice that I've been given and advice that I've given with the disclaimer that you don't have to follow it. I think proper rest and recovery is really important. And, as a coach, I'm in the business of not injuring my runners and wanting them to succeed greatly. And so one piece of advice that was given to me early on, and one piece of advice that I impart and surprisingly have to spend a lot of time telling some of my runners to do this is like, if you want to get fast, you need to slow down.
Oh my God.
so counterintuitive, but it's the single most important piece ever. And I feel like with Strava, a lot of people go out and compete for Strava and like are kind of like they don't want to upload a slow time to Strava. Their friends will be like, well, because some people might think like you're only as good as your last Strava post. And I just feel like that's it. I think that's just a really bad mindset, an unhealthy mindset to have around all that. I mean, like it's pretty common wisdom, and it's popular wisdom. It's out there, like the 80-20 rule. 80% of your runs should be easy to recovery, and 20% should be those hard tempo interval days. And I feel like just go slow, get fast is definitely the best advice. And I just see there's so many runners I want to coach where I just see them like, I just know that they're running their easy runs too slow or too fast. I mean, I just see them uploading these easy runs that are like, they're telling me that it feels easy, but I'm like, I don't think so, because I've seen, I've done the math. I see the race times, it's like, I know where your easy pace should be. And then, it's hard. Your easy pace is actually a lot slower than you think it is. And mine is I run my easy recovery runs probably 2.5 to 3 minutes slower than like my 5K race pace, or 2 minutes slower than 10K. And so I think that number when I uploaded the Strava, it looks really slow, but I think it helps you stay healthy. For one, it helps you recover faster, so you can hit the harder days hard, and you get faster over time. And I think that also goes hand in hand with consistency, because if you're running slower most of the time, your body's not constantly in a state of fatigue. You're hitting the fatigue at more strategic times. And so you're actually able to run more consistently. And so when it comes to training, consistency is king. And you can't really be consistent if you're going out there and trying to be faster than you were yesterday every day.
So the interesting thing is I 10,000% agree. And this came up on another podcast that I've already recorded, the same thing. And what we started talking about is like Strava is really, I have always called it Facebook for runners. Stop comparing yourself and your runs and your speed to someone else because you don't think that they're doing an easy run because their time is a lot faster than yours would be. Take the whole picture. They've been running for 10 years. You have to keep it to yourself, and don't worry that another person is looking at your run and being like, oh, why are they so slow? Mind your business.
Yeah.
First of all, because it's good for me. Second of all, because that's how I get faster. And third of all, what do you care anyway?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, comparison is the devil, right? I mean, there's a reason that's a cliche, but it's also true. And I think that's also where like Strava and Facebook for runners is kind of a dangerous thing, because we see some people doing certain things. They're like, well, I want to do them. Then not only is there comparison, but there's imitation, right? Imitation with the equation. And so then you're like, well, I have, 0 running experience, and I want to do this thing, and I want to run that far. And it takes there's other things besides running that go into running, like strength work and band work and mobility and core and
exactly
stretching and
exactly.
And it also becomes more important as you get older too.
No, we're not going to talk about that.
Yeah, this marathon cycle has seen me doing a lot more mobility work. I'll tell you that much.
All right, favorite race distance?
Half marathon, hands down. Yeah.
But why is that your favorite distance?
I mean, probably for the same reason that everyone else is. I think that in terms of training, it's just a fun distance to train for that feels like you're getting close to your potential, or, you're really putting in a lot of work that feels kind of gratifying on some kind of like spiritual level maybe, or just kind of personal level. And it doesn't take over your life quite like the marathon does. I think the marathon is fun. I enjoy it, but it takes over your life in a way that it isn't always healthy or sustainable or even enjoyable at times. And I feel like if you're training specifically for the half marathon distance, I don't feel there's maybe like 1 week if you're really training seriously where, that peak week might be a little busy, but otherwise life still seems fairly manageable. All aspects of life seem manageable. And it feels like a distance where you've accomplished something when you finish it. I feel like some of the shorter distances, they're just over too quickly. I think that, I think the 5K is fine, but it's a sprint. It's an all out, like using your anaerobic system. And so it just hurts. And I think the older you get, it hurts more. And I just feel like that's a distance where you really or at least for me personally, I see my times getting harder and harder to hit. And so it just kind of hurts more and more to hit the same times.
Yeah.
And so I think it's just becoming less enjoyable. It's over so quick, and it's just not really it doesn't feel like you've accomplished as much, maybe like on that personal level. The 10K, I think the 10K is probably my least favorite distance because it just hurts all the way through when you're racing it. I don't know. It's an awkward distance for me. I'd rather do an 8K. Because I feel like an 8K is just a 5K extended. A 10K, you have to be a little more strategic about how you play it. And I just feel like it's just an extended hurt that doesn't really amount to a distance that feels, personally fulfilling. But the half marathon, it kind of checks all those boxes, right? Like it's personally fulfilling. You can brag about it if you want.
I agree.
I feel like it's just a good challenge, and I feel like that's where you don't run when you run a half, you don't get really into that anaerobic base so much. It's more aerobic, and you're just kind of like you stay in a certain zone, like a tempo zone that's a little more comfortable until the end. I just like it just feels better on the body. It just has an aura around it that I find much more satisfying than some of the shorter distances, and then of course more attractive than the marathon, maybe not as satisfying as the marathon, because I think finishing a marathon is kind of like a huge personal goal achievement and satisfaction, but in terms of enjoyment, I think the recovery time involved after a half is a lot less, and I think it's just it's easier to enjoy. Whereas the marathon feels a bit more like the enjoyment is the suffering and the suffering is the enjoyment kind of thing.
I'm not surprised because now I'm not answering these questions because this is all about you. I'm going to have my own little episode where I get to answer these questions myself. And I can't confirm nor deny that many answers will be the same. Okay, so I did put this on the questionnaire as favorite or famous athlete you'd like to meet.
Yeah, I can't name one, so you're gonna have to bear with me for a second. I really thought about this, and I settled on 3 runners that are no longer with us, and 4 runners that are currently alive that I would really like to have a sit down dinner with. So you're gonna get 7 runners that I really that's like kind of undeniable that I need to meet them. I think the first one is Emil Zatopek. I hope I'm saying his last name right. He's a Czech runner, and he's the first in the Olympics. I forget which year, maybe in the 50s or 60s. I think he won the gold in the 5,000, the 10,000, and the marathon. And he had a brutal life, like a brutal upbringing, and he just had these crazy training plans where to train for the 10K, he just ran 200 meters as hard as he could, 25 times with a 200 meter tempo recovery. Just really crazy short interval stuff for these distance races. And, no one has ever going, because of the way science has come into running and all of this, no one's going to ever achieve what he did. But there's this great thing where he's running the marathon against this guy and battling for first and second. And then this is after he won the 5,000 and the 10,000 meter in the previous days. He's running the marathon. He's leading with this guy. And he's like, is this a good enough pace for the marathon? And the guy next to him says, we're going way too fast and hammering it out. And then Emil just picks it up and keeps going faster and wins the marathon. and so just like, and he lived in like, so, the Soviet bloc countries, just like, didn't even get to really train properly. He was just like forced to go make shoes and boots. And so I just think like, I would love to hear, like, I think there's a lot of lessons to be had from him in terms of like mental fortitude and just being a badass. And so I would really love to sit and talk with him if he was still with us. Second runner that I'd love to meet from the past is Jesse Owens. While not a distance runner, I just think like getting to hear his stories and like what he, being a lot, just he went to Nazi Germany to represent a country that like didn't acknowledge his personhood. Like, I just feel like I want to hear what I feel like anyone could learn a lot of lessons from his life. And I think his stories would just be incredible and invaluable and like, really powerful and emotional. And so I feel like in terms of like the all-star team of runners that I'd love to meet would be Emil, Jesse, and then Steve Prefontaine, because who doesn't want to meet that guy? I mean, I don't want to. I guess everyone probably said Steve Prefontaine, right? Like,
no.
Oh, no? Okay.
No. And see, when you said 3 people past, 4 people present, in the back of my brain, I'm like, I know him. He is going to throw out Prefontaine. I knew it.
Yeah. I feel like everyone wants to, I feel like Emil and Jesse are like 2 that I really want to meet from just like, because I know I could learn a lot from them. And like Steve Prefontaine just seems like the one runner that I just would have loved to party with. And I think he could have achieved so much more had he not, been in a car wreck at 27. But, the way he put running on the map and everything is just inspirational. So I think everyone who, runs and trains really hard and, has run cross country, I feel like they'd be lying if they said they didn't want to meet Steve Prefontaine.
100%.
Yeah. And then right now, I would love to meet in person. The runners I'd love to meet are Emily Sisson, Emma Bates, Graham Blanks, and Yared Nagoose. They're all current runners. I think Emily Sisson ran the Olympic marathon this year. Emma Bates is doing a lot of cool stuff. Graham Blanks is the kid from Harvard that's won the NCAA cross championships. He ran in the Olympics too. And then Yared Nagoose is on that because he's always kind of been third place to Jakob Ingebrigtsen and Josh Kerr, but he finally got his vengeance and beat both of them in a couple races. And he seems like the kindest runner ever. I just feel like I'd hang out with him and he'd just like smile at me the whole time and just like ask me questions. He just seems like such a humble, like kind dude that is just like a killer on the track. So I think those four would be like fun, current, like Gen Z millennial runners that are doing a lot.
Yeah.
That would be fun to kick it with.
That would be the 8 of you together. That would be an event.
That would be
sure.
That would be some llamas frolicking gently energy for sure.
I have to write that down. Okay. Your very last question.
Sure thing.
But you've already kind of answered it. What's your favorite race?
Well, yeah, the Lincoln Presidential Half Marathon in Springfield, Illinois. If it's not on your list, put it on your list. But I do have another favorite race that I've only done once, so I can change this up a little bit.
Oh, wow.
My wife and I were in Iceland for a riding residency one year back in 2015, I think. And I remember that I didn't bring any race gear with me. I just brought a pair of trainers and some like running shorts. And we got to this riding residency. We were talking with the hosts and they, found that I was a runner because all runners find a way to make running part of every initial introductory conversation. And they're like, "Oh, you're a runner." And I was like, "Yes." And they said, the Gularsbruten race is happening in 4 days. I totally did not pronounce that right. But Icelandic is the hardest language in the world to know. So I don't mean that to be offensive.
Can you just say that again, just because?
Yeah, please, if you speak Icelandic, please don't hold it against me. But phonetically, it looks like Larsisbruten. So there is no way I will ever pronounce that properly. But that is a race that happens in the town of Lagervatn, Iceland, and it goes around Lake Lagervatn in the town, and it's an 8K, and it's a traditional, it's old school cross country. And she's like, you jump in the freezing cold lake, and then you have to climb out. You have to like hop hay hurdles, and it's crazy. And I was like, okay, that sounds fun. And she goes, you have to go down to the greenhouse tomorrow, buy the whale skeleton, and give the person $10. And no one, and then like, and it's like mostly local Icelandic people, so no one spoke English, and there's no way I speak any Icelandic. And so I found the whale skeleton, and then I would like handed somebody $10, and the bib was just like a cloth bib with Sharpie on it. Like they had just Sharpied the numbers on the cloth. It's now gotten a little more put together, and I think they have like real bibs now because I followed the race on Facebook because it was so cool. But at the time they just had cloth bibs, and so put the cloth bib on, and I was like, okay, we're gonna do that. It was like starts off in a single track dirt road around this lake, and yep, the lake was really cold, and it ended up being a great time. I actually had a pretty good finish overall, and the other riders from the residency came down and like cheered me on. It was like the whole town comes out for it, so it was like super good energy all around. So I think not a favorite race that I do routinely because I don't go to Iceland routinely. It was definitely like a top fun, unexpected race that if I did ever get the chance to do again, I probably would.
As everybody knows, I've been rating my favorite races. And as I'm going down the list of ones I've chosen, some of them I've done, multiple times, and some of them are a standout single race. Maybe because it's in Iceland, maybe because it's in another state, or maybe it's just because that one experience was just so different than typical experiences you ever had that's your favorite. That's the standout. That's the one that you will always come back to when someone says, what's your favorite race? And I love it that it was like not a traditional marathon. It was something different. I'm not in for the old school cross country. I am not crawling into the water, but I think that's an awesome story. I love that.
Yeah. It was an unforgettable experience. It was just really cool, unexpected. So I think the novelty is what makes it stand out a little bit too, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. And I do love also that that is how a lot of people start the conversation. Oh, you're a runner? Yes, I'm a runner. Because automatically, especially, obviously local, if you meet somebody, we can mention a lot of races and a lot of places that we know. But even when you do travel outside your home area, that still happens. Like you still have so much in common just because you are a runner. By the way, running is defined as moving forward at any pace, period.
Full stop. If you are moving forward, you are running. Absolutely. You are a person in motion.
Yes. I think that should be the new definition of runner, a person in motion.
Moving. Yeah. Not at rest.
All right. Thank you so much for coming on my show and talking things over with me, telling me more about you, some of your favorite medals, the race. Those medals were fabulous. Now, I will tell you that I am very behind in certain things I'm doing. Because being a guest on Start Lines and Swag Bags, how can I not make sure you have a Start Line and Swag Bag?
Oh yeah.
I will tell you. You first of all will get the I was a guest on the Start Lines and Swag Bags podcast. You will get your chapstick. And then you will have an assortment from my new irreverent running sticker collection, which you may or may not have already seen.
You so much.
Which you may have already seen one of.
Oh yeah, I think. Well, now I'm really excited. Now I'm stoked.
Now it's totally worth it. And if I was on the ball, it would already be in the mail to you, but it will be coming to you.
Well, thank you. I'm stoked. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much for being on the show. Maybe I can get you to come back again in the future.
I'd be happy to.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Rachel.